I am Jason Mitchell, and today, I returned home earlier than expected. Just this morning, I was sitting in a meeting, stressed with numbers and project plans, but now, I am standing right in front of my apartment door, feeling like everything is completely out of place. I look at the unfamiliar car parked outside. It's neither mine nor Emily's. A sense of unease floods over me, a feeling I can't explain. Even stranger, the car is parked not far from our door, right next to the quiet street we frequently walk down. It's not a friend's car, but one I've never seen before. The apartment door is ajar, and though I don't hear anything from inside, I'm sure something is wrong. I step closer, silently, each footstep deliberate. A dim light filters through the cracks in the door, casting a glow into the hallway. An uncomfortable feeling washes over me, as if I'm about to walk into a meeting I couldn't avoid. Reaching up, I gently push the door open. There's no sound, no sign of a stranger inside. Not what I expected. Inside, my wife, Emily, is sitting on the sofa, her eyes red and her arms wrapped around her knees. A cold silence fills the room, no joyful sounds, only heavy stillness. I stand there for a moment, waiting, but no explanation comes. Suddenly, I hear footsteps from the bedroom. Ryan. That name is all too familiar. Ryan Brooks, the man Emily has been hiding from me all this time. But when I turn, it's not Ryan stepping out. It's Emily, her face pale, her eyes meeting mine, full of fear. Everything feels frozen in that space. I can't hold back anymore. What the hell is going on here? I ask, my voice thick with emotion. You can't explain this? Why is that man in our house? Emily lowers her head, unable to meet my gaze. Jason, you have to understand. It was just a mistake. You have to believe me, her voice falters. Her excuses are like an echo of emptiness, unable to fill the void in my heart at this moment. I get it now, Emily. I get what you've done, I say, looking into her eyes, not with anger, but with emptiness. I no longer recognize the person I once loved. The love, the trust one had given her is now just a harsh reality. Emily continues to cry, trying to explain, but I can't hear her anymore. The feeling inside me is like a violent wave crashing into me. I can't stand still any longer. Waves of anger rise up in me, as if I'm losing all control. I turn and walk toward the bedroom, where I know Ryan is hiding. The door swings open. Ryan stands there, looking smug, as if nothing is out of the ordinary. Hey, Jason, he says, his voice calm, yet not a hint of fear. I don't respond. I only see his eyes full of arrogance, of mockery toward me, the man he's taken away from me. I feel a fire burn inside me, and before I can think, I'm already charging at him, landing a hard punch to his face. His body stumbles back, his head jerking backward. A rage I can't control takes over, and I lose all sense of reason. Ryan falls, his eyes wide open, but unable to fight back against my strength. I pounce on him like an animal, not thinking of the consequences, just wanting him to feel the pain I'm experiencing. Emily stands there, silent, tears still falling. She could beg me to stop, but I can't stop. The anger and pain have consumed me. I turn to look at her one last time, my eyes full of contempt. Thanks, Emily. Thanks for making me realize it was all just a joke. You don't deserve me anymore. Then, I leave the room, leaving Emily and Ryan lying there. At that moment, I no longer care about them. All I know is I can't continue living in a relationship that's been destroyed by betrayal. I stand there, my hands shaking, but my heart is as cold as ice. The pain of betrayal has completely consumed me, and I can't bear to look at Emily's face, even though she's standing right in front of me, her eyes filled with tears, her mouth constantly apologizing. Jason, you don't understand. It was just a mistake. I didn't mean to. I love you, Emily pleads, but her voice grows weaker, as if even she doesn't believe her own words anymore. I turn to look at her, my gaze cold. A mistake? What do you think I'm supposed to believe now? All these years, all the promises, all the times I tried to build a good family. Was it all just a joke to you? She remains silent, seemingly unable to find any reasonable explanation. Fear and regret are clearly visible on her face, but in my eyes, those tears mean nothing anymore. She's broken my trust, made me feel like I meant nothing to her. A moment later, I hear movement from the living room, Ryan's footsteps. I don't need to look further. I already know he's there, in the house Emily and I once called our home. Angry, I turn to face Emily, my fury rising like an uncontrollable fire. What are you going to do? Are you going to make excuses for him now? I ask, my voice no longer calm. In my mind, 1,000 questions explode. How could they do this to me? How could they betray me with no regret? Emily remained silent, not daring to face me. I walked into the living room, where Ryan stood as though nothing had happened. He was still standing there, even looking at me with an expression full of confidence, not the least bit afraid of my anger. Jason, you don't need to do this, Ryan spoke up, trying to stay calm, but I could tell he was trembling inside. I could sense it in the way he wouldn't look me in the eye. I stepped closer, not saying a word, just staring into his eyes full of challenge, full of contempt. Suddenly, I lunged at him, without a second thought. My rage surged, and I just wanted to knock him out of his arrogance. I landed a hard punch to his face, sending Ryan stumbling back, one hand clutching his face, his expression confused and pained. Is that all you got? I growled. What's just a mistake? What did she give you that I couldn't? You love me? He loves me? You both really think I'm that stupid? But Ryan didn't have time to react. I kept swinging. A punch to his stomach left him gasping for air, then another punch to his face. I couldn't hold back anymore, and this feeling, it was truly satisfying. I wanted him to feel the pain I had been going through all this time. She stood there, still, her eyes full of pain. But I didn't care about her anymore. The anger had taken full control. I knew I couldn't change the past, but I could make Ryan pay. He lowered his head, his lips bleeding, and I could feel his submission in his actions. He no longer dared to fight back. Jason, what are you doing? Stop it, Emily cried out, but her words couldn't stop the fury inside me. I turned back, my eyes cold as ice, looking straight into hers. You don't have the right to speak anymore. You don't deserve it. I cut her off, my tone sharp as a knife. You betrayed me, not just with him but with us. You have no right to ask me to stop. I ignored her, not caring about her crying, not listening to her apologies anymore. I felt like I no longer belonged to this family. I walked out, heading to the one place I felt I needed to be, the living room, where Ryan lay unconscious. I smirked, feeling a slight sense of satisfaction in the pain. I knew this scene would haunt him for the rest of his life. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted him to understand that what he did meant nothing. Both Emily and he would pay for their betrayal. But then suddenly, a deep emptiness overtook me. Everything around me felt hollow, nothing but pain and guilt. I knew I had to face this, but in that moment, I wasn't sure if I could continue living in this house. I stood silently in the living room, staring at the scene before me, an emptiness in my heart. My eyes were on Ryan, lying unconscious on the floor, blood from the wounds on his face staining a patch of the floor. But I didn't feel anything except for a surge of anger and exhaustion. The image of my wife, Emily, leaning against the wall, her eyes red, mumbling apologies, no longer mattered to me. She had disappointed me too much. Jason, I love you. Please don't do this, Emily cried out in desperation, but her pleading couldn't soften the rage inside me. I didn't know what I wanted anymore. My heart was bleeding, but the only thing I felt was an overwhelming fury, as though this pain had to be released somehow. I turned my back on her, no longer caring about her apologies, and walked toward Ryan. The anger surged again, and I couldn't hold it back. Who the hell do you think you are? I yelled, standing over him, no mercy in my voice. What makes you think I won't hit you? You took my wife, didn't you? You're paying a steep price for this, Ryan. His face was covered in blood, his eyes blurred, seemingly not fully conscious yet. But I knew he had no ability to resist. Another punch, this time to his stomach, made him gasp and convulse. I felt a strange satisfaction, as if every ounce of pain in me was slowly fading away. Thanks for making me see the truth, Ryan. You will never get the chance to take her from me again. I stopped, not wanting to hit him more because I knew I had said enough. I turned to look at Emily one more time, feeling like everything left between us was just emptiness. I wanted everything to end here. I wanted her gone. Go home, Emily. I don't want to see your face anymore, I said, my voice cold. She broke into sobs, but I wasn't moved. The anger had passed, but in its place was a heavy silence, like the final nail in the coffin for our relationship. I turned and walked out, ignoring her sobs and her pleas. I didn't need to hear it anymore. What I needed now was just emptiness and quiet. But as I stepped outside, I caught the gaze of a police officer standing at my door, looking at me as if he already knew what was going on. A few moments later, I heard commotion around me, the sound of an ambulance arriving. It was clear Ryan was being taken to the hospital in serious condition. A police car pulled up. That uncomfortable feeling began to resurface. A police officer walked toward me, followed by two others. They looked at me, but I just responded with a cold stare, saying nothing. One of them spoke up, "Mr. Mitchell, we need you to stay here. We may need to question you. Are you involved in the assault on this man?" I just stood there, not answering. I hadn't thought about being arrested or questioned about the incident, but at this point, I felt nothing but frustration. What more do you want to ask me? I looked at them, anger clearly in my eyes. Am I not the one who was betrayed? Another officer stepped closer, his voice calm. We're just doing our job. We need to check you to make sure you weren't involved in this incident. So, you're suspecting me now? I interrupted. What did I do, other than catch my wife cheating on me, and then see this guy sneaking into my house? What are you going to do next? Prevent me from entering my own house? The tension in the air made me feel like I was in some pointless standoff. I glanced over my shoulder and saw Emily standing there, her eyes filled with tears, and in that look, there was pleading, as if she wanted me to turn back. Go, Emily. You have nothing left to say, I said in a dry voice, no trace of emotion left. I walked inside as the officers tried to stop me to search me further. We need to verify a few things with you, one of the officers said, but I didn't want to hear more. So, you're going to search me now? Just to give me more reason to sue you? I challenged. The officers fell silent. Perhaps there was nothing else to say. I continued walking into the room and shut the door behind me, ignoring their presence. They didn't understand, and I didn't want to explain. I just wanted to be alone, away from everything. A while later, there was a knock on the door. I didn't open it, just listened quietly. It was a woman, her voice unfamiliar. When I opened the door, I saw her, Julie Stebbins, Ryan's wife, standing before me. Jason, are you the one who hit my husband? She asked, her eyes full of concern and pain. I looked at her for a moment before answering, yes, I'm the one who hit him. And if I had known he'd been here any longer, I would have done more. Julie stood silent for a moment, then said, you did this just to protect your wife, right? I didn't respond. Everything was over. I had done what I needed to do, but I also realized there were no winners in this story. Not me, not Ryan, and especially not Emily. Go home, Julie. I don't want to talk anymore, I said, softly but firmly. Julie stood there for a moment, looking at me with eyes full of disappointment, then quietly turned away. She walked out the door, leaving me with questions I couldn't answer. I stood in the living room, looking out the window. The surroundings seemed lifeless, just like my current mood. Everything was reduced to shards of trust and disappointment. Though I had completed part of my revenge plan, I didn't feel any relief or satisfaction like I had imagined. In the quiet room, the only sound was my heavy breathing and the soft hum of the radio on the shelf. The police were still lingering outside, as if they were waiting for a reason to seize me. But I didn't care. I wasn't afraid anymore. It was too late. The doorbell rang again. I didn't need to guess. I knew the police were trying to get my statement. I didn't want to face them, didn't want to explain anything anymore. Everything was clear, even if I hadn't done anything wrong. A moment later, there was a loud knock at the door. Not from the police, but from Emily. She had returned. Every time she appeared, it only reminded me of what had happened. The cruel betrayal she had inflicted upon me. Jason, You can't do this. You can't just push me away like this. I know I've been wrong, but you can't act like this. You can't hurt others because of this pain, she cried. I turned back to look at her once more. The pain and regret were still there, but there was no emotion left in me for her. So, what do you want? Do you want me to come back to you? After everything you've done, do you still think you deserve me? She didn't answer, just stood there silently, her hands trembling as she clutched them together, her eyes filled with tears. She had lost everything, and I knew. So had I. We could never go back. When I looked at her, I felt nothing but weariness. I was too exhausted from everything that had happened. Go, Emily. You chose this path, and I can't walk it with you anymore. She collapsed, as though everything around her had fallen apart. But I couldn't save anything anymore. I turned away, leaving her there in the rubble she had created. Before I could do anything else, I heard a noise outside the door. Another ambulance was stopping right in front of the house. At this point, I no longer felt anything. Everything had gotten out of control, and I knew that every action I had taken would have consequences. Whether I wanted it or not, it was going to happen. I no longer cared about Ryan, whether he lived or died. It was all over. But as I walked to the door, the police were already waiting. One officer walked toward me, his gaze cold. Jason Mitchell, we need you to come with us, the officer said. I just stood there, looked at them for a moment, and replied, what do you want me to do? Just come and arrest me. I have nothing left to lose. They didn't say anything, just motioned for me to follow them. I stepped outside, without a word of protest. The police led me to the car, and throughout the journey, I didn't say a word. They didn't understand me, and I didn't care about them. I had done what I needed to do. When I arrived at the police station, no one said much. I sat quietly in the interrogation room, staring at the cold table in front of me. The reason I was being arrested no longer mattered. What I felt right then was emptiness, as if a part of me had already died. Jason Mitchell, we are investigating the assault on Ryan Brooks. Do you have anything to explain? The officer asked. I looked into his eyes, then replied coldly, I have nothing to explain. My wife betrayed me with this man. I don't need to say more. What do you want from me? She destroyed my family, and I just did what I thought was right. The officer sitting across from me didn't say anything more, just nodded as if he already knew everything. I felt frustrated. They were trying to force me to confess to something, but I had nothing left to lose. What I needed now was an end to all of this. A few minutes later, the officer returned. Jason, do you want to confess to anything? You know, without clear evidence, we won't be able to do anything further. I sneered. He's still alive, so there's nothing to worry about. As for me, I don't need to say anything more. I have nothing to hide. At that moment, another investigator entered the room and whispered to the lead officer. They exchanged a few words, then turned back to look at me. We'll continue the investigation, but for now, you'll be released. I wasn't surprised. I knew I could get away with it, avoid serious charges. But part of me knew that, even if I escaped legal punishment, I wouldn't escape myself. When I walked out of the police station, nothing had changed. Everything was still the same. Still the empty streets I walked down every day. But now, they only remained as shadows. My footsteps echoed in the quiet space like sounds of emptiness. I could feel every ache in my chest, as if my heart had been ripped out, leaving behind nothing of who I was. Emily was still at home. I knew she hadn't gone anywhere. But right now, I didn't want to face her. Everything was over. There was no reason to go back to the past. When I reached the apartment, I opened the door and immediately saw the things she had left behind. Family photos, shared belongings, all left there as a reminder of what had been. A wave of loneliness swept over me. This was no longer my family. This was just an empty house where I no longer belonged. Emily stepped into the living room, her eyes red, tears long gone. Jason, I'm sorry. I can't change what's happened, but you have to believe me. I never meant to hurt you. I looked at her, but felt nothing but indifference. You've hurt me too many times, Emily. You're no longer the person I once loved. What do all these apologies mean when we've destroyed each other so much? She stood there, unsure of what to say, just staring at me. But then, one thing she said hit me like a painful slap. You'll regret this. One day, you'll regret what you've done. Those words felt like a blow. I couldn't think anymore, just stood there as I watched her walk out of the house. And then, I had nothing left but emptiness. Months later, I stood in front of the courthouse. What would happen next in my life? Even though there was no official conclusion about me assaulting Ryan, the feelings inside me couldn't be put out. The images of her, of Ryan, still haunted me every night. But in those long nights, I realized something. Rage and revenge only bring more pain. No matter what I did, I couldn't change the past. No recompense could erase the sorrow and pain I felt. I remembered Emily's words, "One day, you'll regret it." And truly, I had begun to regret. I didn't regret what I did to Ryan, but I regretted letting things go too far. I regretted not stopping in time, regretted losing myself in the rage. That was the price I had to pay. I walked out of the courthouse, no smiles, no joy. Everything was just emptiness. I knew my life would never be the same. As for Emily, she had already gone from my life, taking with her the ugly memories of us. But maybe I had to live with what I caused. That was the only lesson I could take from all this. Revenge never brings peace. It only leaves behind pain and regret that can never be erased. The story ends with no perfect resolution, no forgiveness or reconciliation. Everything had been too late, and sometimes, the only thing you can do is live with your decisions, whether they break you or make you stand tall. Revenge may be a momentary feeling, a way to release anger, but it can never bring true peace. Only when you know how to let go and accept that everything is over, can you begin to heal your wounds. No matter how much you're betrayed, keeping your dignity and not letting emotions overpower reason will help you find peace within yourself.